Welcome. This podcast is an exploration into being human and what's possible when there's less attention on the noise in our heads. Warning. While listening to this broadcast, you may experience moments of deep peace, sighs of relief, personal insights, or long stretches of dead air. Do not be afraid. This is normal. Under the Noise with Wyn Morgan and Kate Roberts.
Welcome to another episode, a holiday episode of Under the Noise. And for those listening and not watching on YouTube, Wyn is wearing a Santa hat and pointing very quickly to the hat, just so in case you hadn't seen it yet. Oh,
it's as Christmassy as I get. Seriously. So, expect it to happen every year, even, right?
Red nail polish. This is as Christmassy as I get as well. That's about it.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that's as Christmassy as you get.
Ask anyone. I still haven't put up any decorations yet. Nothing.
I don't.
Okay.
Then yet. No, I just don't. Because I won't be in this house.
Well, you don't. You go away.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd put something out for the holidays, an episode.
Yeah.
And we were talking about different perspectives, different ways of looking at the holidays, different versions of an episode that we could do about the holiday. And I put one to you and you're like, that's it. Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, because I won't remember it. And this is herbal tea, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
Oh, that it's not eggnog?
Stronger than that. Yeah, no, it isn't. It's not eggnog, and I've not opened my Christmas whiskey or anything yet, nor my bourbon. I've not got that open, right? Even though it's 5 minutes ago you told me what we'd be talking about in this episode. I'm going to say, well, the truth is I can't remember the detail of it, but the actual, what I'd say instead is that, well, you'll be able to say it better than I would because it's your idea.
Yeah, okay. So I will say this is my idea, my thought about the holidays is that it's probably this take on it is confronting. And the reason why I say that is because there's no other time, I think, and not just during the holidays, but whenever we go back into a situation where we grew up. So with our family, with our friends, maybe a hometown if you moved away. But there is something about the holidays and going back into those experiences where I think this conversation is really kind of challenging. And I say that because we can have all of these conversations throughout the year and in our lives that our experience of life is made up from our thinking. And we can say that over and over and be in these conversations and be like, oh, yeah, that's really how it works, right? But then you get somebody around their family and their friends or their home where they grew up, and it truly doesn't look like that. It truly, truly doesn't. It looks like my mom is why I'm this way, and my father is why I feel this way. And even if just knowing we're heading in that direction, we already are feeling that way before we even get there, but we completely dismiss that. So it can't possibly be the case because we've already been feeling like that on the 8-hour drive home or whatever, right? But we're like, no, it's definitely no. And I think this is such a beautiful conversation, even if it is confronting, because if what we're saying is true, that our experience of life isn't coming from outside in, it's coming from inside out, from our thinking. Are we willing to consider that that's true even during the holidays? And I will absolutely put a disclaimer on this episode that it's okay if the answer is no. It's okay if you're not willing. That's okay. Because this is confronting. Because it really does look like it's because of something outside of us that's creating our experience.
So what you're saying is it's still okay to blame somebody else.
Well,
is that what you mean?
The answer is no, but that's what's so cool about this conversation is, am I willing to consider that?
Am I willing to consider? And in this episode, I think it would be good for you and I to share some examples of our own lives where it did look like they or it was the cause. And then turns out it wasn't, and we saw that. I think that would be fun.
I'm going to let you go first because
all right. Well, I think that's only right, because otherwise I'd have just dropped you in there going, guess what you're going to talk about then?
Basically.
Well, I'm going to come at it with I'm not going to avoid my comment just now, my suggestion just now, but something popped into my head about what you just shared. And I had this vision of being in a classroom in my school. So the equivalent of high school in the US. Orchva Comprehensive School in Swansea, where I grew up. And to me, the room that came to mind, the classroom that came to mind is where I learned French. And if I went back to that room, I think I would associate it with learning French. I might even remember some of the words. I mean, I can even feel it now. I remember being very proud of being able to spell perfectly, unfortunately, in French. And the reason I put it in, every single piece of text, I always put in, unfortunately, in French, because no one else could spell it correctly, and the teacher thought it was great that one of the hardest words to spell, malheureusement, as I remember from a long time ago, it's like 40-odd years this was, right? Unfortunately. I could spell it, so I put it in there. But I'd forgotten about that. I haven't thought about that for 20 years. But here I am, in my mind, revisiting that classroom, French, right? Now, I was also using that classroom. I wasn't using it. It was my kind of like form room when I was about 4 years older, near the end of my time in that school. And that was like a bunch of us were in that, and not all of us were in that classroom for French in the first 2 years of school. I was. So in my mind, that room is the French room. The room is French to me, right? I'd sit there and I'd have French on my mind. They never learned French in that room. So that room wasn't French to them. So outside, nothing to do with it. It's coming from the inside. And even the fact that I can remember the French word now for unfortunately, and I could probably still spell it, even though it's probably 40 years ago that I sat in that room learning French the last time. Showing my age. Yes, I'm not 37 anymore.
So that's what came to mind when I was doing my.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the reason was, right, is that I notice it. I get back together with the boys from school, right? We get together sometime between Christmas and New Year every year if we can. And sometimes one of us can't make it, or a few of us can't because of sickness and various different things, or we're not back in Swansea long enough for that to take place. But it's funny that when we're together again, even though we're all older, wider, not wiser, wider, and most of us have got less hair. You know who you are if you're listening to this. Some have none, or grayer in the hair department. We're all back to the way we were. The last time we kind of like hung out together, all of us together at age 18, 19, 20 maybe, was the last time that we would hang out all the time together. But we'd be back in that same kind of mentality. I regress back to my, idiot childhood state. Not that dissimilar to my idiot adult state. But I notice I'm different around those boys. I notice it. And I love the fact what you just said, it's not caused by them. Because it even happens probably and I always drive, because where I stay at my mother's house is a bit of a drive away from Swansea. So I can't get a taxi. So I just, I might have one drink early in the night. And then 4 hours later, I'm kind of like fine to go back in the car. But even driving from my mother's place in her village back to Swansea, which is about a half an hour drive, I'll already be there, mentally and emotionally, as I was at 19. So it can't be them because they weren't even there. So that's what came to mind, and that was my example of, hey, so here's another one. I notice I tease more.
Do you?
With those boys. Yeah, because, when we were teenagers, it would just be like a solid roast each other kind of time. That's all we would do, and it was great fun. But I don't roast people so much these days. I'll do a little bit of it, but it's far more good-natured than it used to be. But I'd go back to the kind of like, find the needle in the roasting, We'd be doing that to each other. Now, it's still kind of good-natured, but far more mean than I would be these days. The people people I'd met in the last 10 years. No roasting. A little bit of teasing, right? The way like you and I would tease each other a little bit, right? So I suppress a yawn and, you go, what the heck's wrong with you? Suppressing a yawn? How old are you? All that kind of stuff. You're getting tired. Remember that?
Mm.
Yes, you do. But that's really good-natured. But me going back with the boys that I grew up with in school, man, it's far more kind of needly. And I said before we even thought about what we were going to talk about, I said that I can do my annoying younger brother routine around my older brother. And it's not his fault. It's all happening to me. And I'll do it, right? I remember sitting next to him on a plane. He and I went to watch Wales in the football soccer World Cup a couple of years ago. Oh, it would be just like I was 3 again. And he was 6. So I'd be like niggling and just like playing up and stuff like that and teasing him and stuff. And he was going, oh, this is going to be a long week. And I went, you've got no idea. So there's me outing myself of how I regress back to my younger days around people and situations and places. And it's not them doing it to me. I know that. But I put on that without even knowing it. I'm back there. Subconsciously. it comes in. And I don't know. I'll see now, right? I'm fascinated. Given the fact we're talking about this now, I wonder if it still happens as much this year. I wonder. Now it's become more visible to me. I wonder.
Maybe we should do a post-holiday follow-up episode and see if it actually was different. Or you're like, why am I being so annoying? I don't know. I'm still doing it.
So, Wyn, were you less annoying this holiday season? And I'm there with like cuts and bruises and a couple of black eyes, and
there you go.
Evidently not.
No. That's funny. Okay, I thought of an example. So when I moved away and moved to Florida, I changed careers. I used to teach high school, and then I got into, coaching and did massage, and I found the principles, or they found me. And I had already started to change before I left, but then life feels very different now for me. I'm different now than I was. And a lot of the conversations that I have are a lot like this, where we're talking about the spiritual nature of life. And I feel very open in sharing it. My jobs are, for the most part, wrapped around this conversation. I'm doing a podcast.
You are?
I even right. I even facilitate around the conversation. Calls for work, and I feel very comfortable in that space. But when I go back, I downplay that immensely. I don't show up in the same way. I wait to be asked about it specifically. I become a quieter version of that. I have no idea why. Like, even knowing that these types of conversations are beautiful, can change lives, has changed me. I'll play quiet about this type of conversation, and honestly probably assume it's because of the people I'm talking to. Like, I think it's about them. And it has nothing to do with them. And everything to do with my thinking on them. Like, who would want to hear that? I don't want to come off as like somebody who knows things. What do I know? Yeah. Now, if it's a one-on-one conversation and it feels like it's naturally going in that direction, sure. But that's one way that I pick up all my old thoughts and beliefs about family and friends and hometowns and everything. And, like we were talking about before we hit record, it's like we don't realize it, but when we're headed back, it's like we grab all of our old ideas about people and ourselves, like who we used to be, and our beliefs and roles, the roles we played. And it's like we grab them all up and we put them on like an old coat and then show up back home, not realizing that we're doing it. Just innocently. And how cool is it to notice that? Cool is that? Especially without judgment. If we're able to notice it without judgment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good pickup. Notice without judgment again on that.
Yeah.
Because it's not if you're listening to this and you think, oh no, that's happening to me, it's just like, no, it's not happening to you. It's a human phenomenon as opposed to a personal one. It really is. That's how we work. And it's really cool to then notice that that's how human beings are. And then notice without judgment, and then it's the potential for a different way of being is available to us. But if we're in our judgment again, there's nothing other than being in our judgment that's available to us. It's not going to mean a different way of being. Or, I'm going to say probably a bit more accurately, I think, if the judgment is instant as opposed to chronic judgment, if I'm saying, oh, I don't want to be like that, that's fine. It's great. But if it's, oh, I don't want to be like that, what's wrong with me? I really am an idiot. Oh no. And then I just carry on and carry on and carry on. That's the bit that's not required. Oh, I don't want to be like that. Then there's an opportunity for, wait a minute, this is happening in me. I don't want to be like that. It's amazing to notice. Then there's a potential for a different way of being and a different way of behaving without regressing into the person we no longer are.
And it's also, we have these beliefs about who other people are.
Yeah.
And if you're in this conversation and let's say you go back for the holiday and you've got these beliefs like, oh, my mother's nosy and controlling, right? And you show up and they're showing up the exact same. And so it's very easy. It's very easy to just think that experience of your mother or whoever, right? But that is why you feel the way that you do. But that's what's so, guys, it's just, if I'm able, okay, I'm going to put that right in there in the beginning. If I'm able, if I'm noticing, if I'm willing, And sometimes the answer is no. That there's I didn't come up with this. I heard this spoken about by Aaron Turner at one point. He calls it a clean slate.
Mm.
And that clean slate is always available at any moment, on any topic, with any person. Even if they're not showing up any differently than ever before, there is still that possibility of a clean slate with them. Because the clean slate's inside of us. And just knowing that that's a possibility, like, what does a clean slate feel like with these people that you've known maybe since the day you were born, that have known you? Like, there's a curiosity that's available around this. If we feel like it. Like, I wonder what a clean slate feels like around this person. And if what we're saying is true, and if we're willing, we're part of infinite love and possibility. It's who we are.
It's really hit me how cool that whole notion of the clean slate. Because the phrase the clean slate, I think, comes from you write off everything that's happened in the past. Because it was like the slate was, you'd scratch on it and put in, okay, this person owes me this, and this person, I owe this person this, and it's just like clean it. Everything that's past is gone. Or another way of saying it, it's like bygones be bygones. It's also, if I remember correctly, it's the meaning behind the New Year's Eve song, Auld Lang Syne. The Scottish Hogmanay song, Auld Lang Syne. It's about fresh start. Don't have to wait till January the 1st. Can do that before. Can do that at any moment. Now. And the feeling that comes from wiping the slate clean for anybody in our life, I did it twice this year. I gave myself an exercise to do it. And with two people, I decided I wanted to change my internal relationship with them, and because I know it's internal. And I thought, I'm going to really test this to see what happens. And it was amazing, the feeling I got from wiping the slate clean in my head and my emotion about these people. It was just like, whoa. And remarkable. And I'd bumped into both of these people like 3 times over the spring and summer. Amazing. All I could just see was how great they are, how lovely they are, how human they are too. So even the things that used to annoy me would then be their humanity and their frailty as opposed to a personal slight that I'd create a story of. But within me, I just felt so much easier. And it's funny because we think that if we gave people a clean slate, they'll take advantage of us more. No, that's not what, in my experience, what happens. I tend to be the one who benefits. They're still the same in their own way of seeing life and how they are. But in me, I have a lot less judgment and an awful lot more warmth towards them, and I'm the one who benefits in that warmth. I mean, the possibility of forgiving people for just being the way they are doesn't mean agreeing with everything that they say or do. I find that just a beautiful concept. And I throw me in the mix with my own frailties that I'm really quick to judge. I'm really easy to give myself a hard time over. I want to put me in that mix too. So clean slate for me. Clean slate that everyone who looks like they owe me a debt of ill treatment, grudges. Yeah. The only person struggling with that is me. And that doesn't mean invite people who might have been mean to me several times in the past few months or years. Doesn't mean invite them round for dinner every week. I don't have to do that. But inside, I can wipe the slate clean. Anytime. I don't have to change my doing towards them or, send them a message on WhatsApp saying, I forgive you. And they go, what the heck's he drinking? Because they might have no idea of what's going on in my head because of my own separate reality. But I get to feel the benefit of a clean slate. It's a beautiful place with this conversation, Wyn Kate. Thank you.
I love that you mentioned our humanity, because I feel like that's where compassion is born, and not just for other people but for ourselves. I heard someone say recently, they were talking about how they had been in a mood, like a low mood, and their partner, everything about their partner was infuriating. And then when it passed, they saw that their partner's behavior was either love or a cry for love and nothing else. It came down to a simplicity. that everything we're up to and everything that everyone's up to, when it comes down to it, it's either love or a cry for love. And I love that. Hard to see that, when we're caught up. But if we're willing to, I think, leave a space for that clean slate, for that magical unknown place to come back to. Yeah.
You know what struck me? As he was saying that, I thought, I wonder if we are, humans are that simple. And it may well be true that we are that simple, that what we do is an act of love or an act of seeking love. A cry for love. A weird thing came into my head was one of the things we learn as kids and then teach children is, what sound does a dog make? Woof. What sound does a cat make? Meow. How does a cow go? Moo, right? All that kind of stuff. How come we don't? What does a human do? So we can see, oh, dogs bark. Yeah, dog. Cats meow, cat. Humans, an act of love, or what was the phrase you said?
Cry for love.
A cry for love. Humans, they either, what they do is love or cry for love. Oh. If we knew that, in the same way we know sound of a duck and the sound of a cat and a cow and a dog, just wonder. I don't have the answer, but it's a heck of a thing to wonder about. And I think if that's all there is, there's just clean slates, clean slates, clean slates. Because there's nothing to scratch that, it was act of love, cry for love. Oh, just human. Nothing to scratch on the slate there. It's just a human in the way that we don't judge a duck for quacking. We judge ourselves for being human and each other for being human. Because we see the behavior, not what's behind the behavior. And we label someone else's external behavior in our own thinking about what that must mean. We don't know what's going on inside them to make them do what they do. And to me, look, this is going to sound a bit grandiose potentially, but every religion talks about that. The innocent humanity in people. And like Christmas in Christian societies, it seems to be that that's the kind of message of Christmas. And I know from what I've heard, the little that I heard and understood about other religions, it seems to be similar too. There's a lot of hope there that I'm feeling right now. Not that it'll change the world, but I can do my bit.
Thanks, Wyn.
Thank you. This was an amazing conversation, and as always, we never know. Twists and turns it's going to go down. But from Kate and myself to you and your loved ones and your families, happy holidays, regardless of what you celebrate, how you celebrate, whether you do celebrate or not. We'd love to hear from you of what you've taken from this, including what the heck was that all about. We'd love to hear that too. And your suggestions and questions as we come into the next year. And we're coming up to celebrating our 3rd year, the end of our 3rd year, and entering our 4th year of this podcast, huh? Who knew?
Oh.
Who knew? Who knew that you could put up with me for this long?
Right?
I know. I know. But for you listening, thanks for listening, and I hope you got something thought-provoking or insightful from this, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Happy holidays.
And Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have a topic or question that you'd like us to chat about, email Wyn or Kate at wyn@winning.co.uk and Kate at katerobertscoaching.com. Until then, enjoy what's possible under the noise.